We're back, baby. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Den Excelsior, the mostly Marvel podcast. This is the week of what is the week of November? I was gonna say December, November 10th, 2023. We're talking about Loki. Loki finale. Loki, I guess the last two episodes of Loki, because we took a week off.
Yeah, we took a week off. You went on a vacation, and I
Mhm.
was like, I don't want to talk about this episode just by itself. It's not. I'd rather build up the last two. Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of
So
like a work trip, kind of, right? I went to New York. I saw where a lot of Marvel characters kicked ass. So that was cool.
was it a work trip?
No, it wasn't work.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Do you have fun?
I had a lot of fun. New York is a very beautiful city, very big city. Definitely a place that I want to go back to again, and definitely a place where I'll recommend people to go. Um, it's a lot cleaner of a city than I expected. I don't know if I lucked out, but I was just amazed like how clean everything was in retrospect. Um, and yeah, it was cool. I did all the major sites, but it was nice. We did a lot of walking. We did about 8 miles a day in and around the city.
Mm.
So aside from the big touristy points, it was really cool to like walk past little nooks and crannies of the city that, oh yeah, that's where Spider-Man did this thing. This is where Hawkeye had a mental breakdown. This is where Kamala looked over the water, and it was cool. It was really cool to just to have those little nuggets in the back of my mind as we walked through everything.
Was the ice rink at 30 Rock already?
It was. They were all
Yeah.
Christmas up already.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Because
Yep.
I know the tree gets unveiled on I think on Thanksgiving Day.
There's definitely a tree there.
But
There's a
it's
lot of
covered, right?
trees.
It's covered.
I don't think it
Like
was covered.
the tree is huge.
Oh,
It's yeah. Okay, it's fine. I know what you saw.
Macy's looked like Thanksgiving Macy's.
Yeah,
Okay.
except just wait till it's actually Thanksgiving. It's nuts. That place is.
A day later, I guess Jared Leto climbed the Empire State Building, which is kind of weird. But
He climbed it.
yeah, he didn't like check the news. He like
N-
climbed this. I think he just the top, but he was climbing on the outside of the Empire State Building a day or two ago.
What was it for a movie?
I, Morbius 2 coming 2024.
Oh my god. Uh, you asked me, did I check the news? I feel better off when I don't check the news because
Yeah, news is kind of rough right now.
things
But
are dumb and weird. Yeah. So did you get a lot of time to nerd out on anything this week?
I dabbled a little. I got back Wednesday and had homework on Wednesday, Captain Marvel on Thursday, and Loki on Thursday, and this on today. So
Well, just as a heads up for our listeners and our viewers, we both did watch the Marvels
mhm.
yesterday, but we will not be spoiling anything because we know that it just came out officially yesterday. So I don't want to, you know, I want to give people time.
Let it simmer. A lot coming
Yeah,
out. You had two
yeah,
two things in one day.
yeah. So we'll be saving that one. We got a special guest, Lacey, joining us next week to talk about that. She hasn't been on the show in a while. We tried to get her on the show earlier this year, but there was some scheduling conflicts. So I'm happy to have her back to talk about the Marvels next week. So that's what you can look forward to then. But in addition to Loki this week, I think you watched a little bit of Gen V finally.
I finally watched a little bit of Gen V. I watched the end. Um,
Oh, okay,
that's how I do that. Um,
okay,
I liked what I saw. Um,
okay.
um, the boys, man, that show. The only I think the recurring joke, I guess, is like, oh no, there's a new MacGuffin, right? That's kind of what it is. But I'm just so happy to be in that world and re-enter that world.
Yeah. So the boys uh universe is great because of probably three characters, right? Homelander, Butcher, and Huey. Like they make that show
Mhm.
so entertaining. And I think that was my problem I was having with this season of Gen V, which was like a spin-off of the show, is it was following all these young teenage kids. It had a very CW vibe, like the acting was okay. It legit actually had some actors from CW shows on it. Wasn't helping its case. But then as the story kind of progressed, I started seeing how there was a story that could definitely carry back over into the boys. And that's when I started enjoying it. And the story is there's this at this college, there's a secret lab where they're developing a virus that can specifically target superpowered people and kill them. And as the story plays out, you find out that it's the person that is running that operation. She actually lost her family in the plane that Homelander took down in like season 1, I think it was.
Yeah, that's season 1.
Yeah, yeah. She lost all of her family there, and she had gained access to files that made it very clear that it was a superpowered person that took that plane down. Classified documents and stuff like that. She saw the burn marks from his lasers and stuff like that. So that's been her little mission that she's been on, and then it just kind of escalated. Everything escalated, and then there ended up being really cool new factions of soups, bad ones and good ones, and yeah, at the end of the day, there's this virus, and Homelander shows up, saves the day in a really twisted Homelander way, and then in the post credits, right, we get the Butcher finding out about the virus. I believe is that what?
Yep.
And so yeah, so I'm excited to see where that goes. But I definitely smiled a lot more when I got Homelander and Butcher in the same episode.
You're wearing a RoboCop shirt. There is a new RoboCop game. How much have you played?
I've played a decent amount and I love it. It's really great.
It's like a budget game, technically? Is it not full price?
It was full price.
Okay.
It's an excellent game. It's I like it more than Spider-Man 2.
Oh my god. Have you beat Spider-Man 2?
No.
Okay. RoboCop the game, it's a sequel to the first movie?
The second movie. It takes place in the world after the first 2 movies.
Is the second one with the kid, or is that the third one?
Yeah. Second one's got a kid in it.
Okay.
That goes around selling nuke and stuff like that. Yeah. I think the reason I like this game so much, aside from Peter Weller being the voice of RoboCop, is it on
Dr.
paper,
Peter Weller.
On paper, it looks like a shooter, just like a silly, slow paced shooter where you're just a tank, bullet sponge, and you go around shooting people in the dick. And you can do that. It is really what you can do. But what became really evident the longer I played it is it's actually a role-playing game. It's an RPG with all these different stats that you gain access to, and you can bump up. And the stats are very equivalent to like the kind of stats that you would have in D&D. So like, for example, there's a psychology trait, right? A straight psychology stat. And you can start bumping points into that. And what does it do? It basically allows you to have more dialogue options. So it's the equivalent of a D&D charisma stat. You know what I mean? And so there's all these different ones. There's deduction, which is basically the intelligence stat. And every different thing that you choose to prioritize changes how you interact with the world and how you allow the citizens of New Detroit to perceive RoboCop. And what's really cool is like you have a lot of dialogue options. So there's a lot of talking in the game too. It's not just shooting people all the time. So like there's a really fun moment in the game where the guy at the front desk of the police station is swamped, and he asks you to open up a second line so you can take some of the citizens' like complaints. And so you start listening to their complaints, and then you get to decide how you react to those complaints. I usually just issue tickets to everybody because it's hilarious. And um, but no, it's really funny because you basically, a lot of the dialogue options let you choose if you're going to answer it with a very human response or a very machine response,
Mhm.
like so you're actively deciding how human RoboCop is in the story as you're
That's
playing it.
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so once that happened, I was like, "Oh my god, I love this game." I was just down for the shooting dicks. That's why I got the
That
game.
brought you in the door.
Yeah, it brought me in the door. But the more I play, and it's kind of like like Baldur's Gate 3, where sometimes you'll find a situation and then you're like, oh, I can't do that thing this way because I don't have this stat or I don't have this person in my party or whatever. It's just like that. Like sometimes I'll find like a puzzle and it's like, nope, you need engineering level 2 to solve this puzzle. I'm like, well, screw you, fine. And then I just leave and go. So like there's lots of things in the game that make you want to replay it, to try it different
Mhm.
ways. You know what I mean? Just try different allocations of your skills or your talents and stuff like that. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's a great game. I won't say the graphics are the best because I don't like, it's not a triple A game, right? Like it doesn't it's definitely cutting corners in some places. But I forgive it because I think the story that they're giving you and the experience of just living in that world of RoboCop is something we don't get very often. And I don't mean to rag on Spider-Man 2, like I just know that that's like the big game that's out right now. Um, Other than like Alan Wake 2, which I think is supposed to be super good as well. But I think my problem with Spider-Man 2 is at this point, it's funny that it's called Spider-Man 2 when it's really like Spider-Man 18 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like there's been so many good Spider-Man games that like
Well, yeah, it's the
we're
second
we're
one.
s- we're,
I know what
we're
you mean.
spoiled. We're spoiled though, right? We're spoiled because there's very few bad Spider-Man games. And yeah, they keep getting better, but it becomes, at a certain point, it becomes like tiny incremental
Mhm.
improvements over the last. But like RoboCop ain't got many games, you know what I mean? And so like it feels like a fresher playground to live in and stuff. So yeah, the Spider-Man stuff, like I'm not gonna knock it. It's like the gameplay's great, the story's fine, like everything's there's improvements here and there, like from the previous game, but like at the end of the day, I don't really care about the story that's happening because I've seen it retold a million different ways already.
There was a Spider-Man the game section in the Empire State Building. I thought that was cool.
Oh, really?
Um,
That's cool.
there's a lot. Well, there's a lot of Spider-Man the game ads, but I guess it's still new. But I guess yeah, that talking about media that building has been in, and there was a pretty prominent feature on that game, which was neat.
That's cool. Yeah. I have you beat it?
No,
Oh,
I'm gonna play some after this, and I'm like halfway through.
yeah, I'm
I have the suit.
I'm 51% through the game.
I like it. I like what I played. I'll keep on playing. I'll finish it.
That's what I'm saying. I like it, but like RoboCop's my sweet mistress. It's great. It's great. I highly recommend it if you're ever down to just like walk around. Like that's the crazy thing. Like when you go into like a city, you don't get access to like
Are
the
you telling me
whole
to go walk
city,
around Detroit?
but you literally just walk. You walk. Like you cannot run with RoboCop. You literally just go one step at a time, walking around, finding crimes and either shooting them or issuing tickets or arresting them and stuff like that. That's the other thing you can do. You can actually like build a case against somebody by collecting evidence and like and finding the right people to talk to, it was witnesses and stuff. And then once you've built that case, you go and you present it to the person and you're like, yo, I'm arresting you and here's why. And it's really fun. It's a little bit of a like Phoenix Wright kind of experience, like if you've ever played those games.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Well, we took 2 weeks off. We had we took a week off and had a week of RoboCop and traveling. But what do you say we get into some news? I could not think of a segue to get out of RoboCop.
I was gonna say it wasn't your best segue, but it wasn't your worst either. So that's fine.
Let's kick it off with the big one. This came out yesterday. Marvel Studios, the strike has ended. Let's start there. And because of that, everything is getting reshifted, refocused, because you can now do things.
Oh, the actor strike.
Actor strike has ended. So as the dust clears, there is only going to be one MCU movie next year.
Deadpool.
That's wild. Granted, there are going to be 3 Sony movies next year. Sony Marvel movies.
Craven. But in fairness, like I mean, I called this. Like I said, like the drought will not happen until next year. Like, and it's not Marvel's fault. It is. It's everybody's fault who wouldn't just come to the table earlier. But like this strike was important to them, and they had to do it. And I'll always sympathize with everybody that's striking. Like I know technically us being on this, doing this show week to week, talking about the stuff that these big studios are producing is not the best way to support, the talent and stuff like that. But at the same time, we love the content. And so, yeah, it's sad. It's sad that next year we're not going to get a lot of MCU movies, but you know what? We're not going to get a lot of quality anything, period.
Well, let me read the list. We got Deadpool next year in the middle of July, so during Comic-Con. That'll be fun. And then in 2025, we got Captain America in February. The Thunderbolts is going in July.
Okay.
And Blade is going to November.
Oh boy, that's far.
Fast and Furious. Fantastic Four is also still slated to come out in 2025, but any news of that has been kind of absent.
Well, that means everything's got to be put on the back of poor Deadpool. You got to launch an entire X-Men franchise right there off of Deadpool.
How many X-Men do you think are in Deadpool and will be in Deadpool?
A lot.
Fair enough.
A lot. I think a lot will be in Deadpool, and it's going to be a celebration of the Fox universe. I think you're going to get people from the X-Men movie. You're going to get people from Daredevil. You might even get Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider for all we know. Like that's a Sony movie. Wait, was it Sony or was it Fox? I feel like that was Sony.
That was Sony.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got a trailer while we were gone of Echo. Echo is coming out January 10th. All episodes are going to be coming out. All 5 episodes are coming out at once. It's going to be under a Marvel Spotlight moniker, which is they announced is going to be given to shows or series that don't have a direct tie into the big picture of the MCU, so kind of more street level stories.
Okay.
Did you watch this trailer?
I did not actually. I have not. I have not watched the trailer.
It is MA. It is an adult show. There is blood and violence. There's a Kingpin in there. There's a Daredevil in that show.
Yeah, I figured all of those things were in there. So, I will watch the trailer, but like I don't know. I'm not in a rush. Like I feel like sometimes the trailers just get me excited for something I can't have soon. And so,
that's January 10th. That's 2 months from now. That's soon.
Then I'll wait a little longer and then I'll watch it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it'll be fine. It just, I have a very, the problem I have with Echo is I have a very specific story of Echo that's burned into my head from the comics, and
Mhm.
it's one of the greatest comics I've ever read, and that's the problem I have. Is it's like the bar is really high for Echo for in my
Is
mind.
that the which one is it?
It's her introduction story. It's it's a story arc in Daredevil, and it's drawn by David Mack, or illustrated by David Mack. It's paintings. It's all watercolor. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful, and yeah, they just did a really great job, David Mack and Brian Michael Bendis, of creating a comic told through the eyes of a deaf person. And so like it's a really beautiful piece of art, and I don't know how it'll translate to TV. So I'm a little
I
skeptical.
mean, you got the double dip on the representation in this one, so you got a lot going
I'm
on.
I'm not mad about the representation. Don't get me wrong.
Well,
That's cool. I just don't know if the show can be what I want it to be. So
fair enough.
yeah, yeah.
Before we continue, I forgot to mention I was on a plane with Kevin Smith that I did not. I realized after the fact, because that man has lost a lot of weight. He is looking good now. Um, so from the front, I thought it was him, and then once I looked from the back, I'm like, oh, he has a backwards hat. That has to be him, and it was him.
And you didn't talk to him.
No, it's like midnight. I'm on the back. I'm literally at the back of the plane, and he's at the front of the plane.
He was high. He would have been down to clown.
All right. I mean,
He was high.
he so in first class there's like the doubles and the singles. He was in the singles, so I don't know if I was invited to that.
You never know until you try.
Well, I'll
Never
try
know.
next time.
Yeah, you should have just led with like, "I'm so glad you fit in the seats, bro." Mm.
Well, I hope this will fit in your hearts. We get our first look at Dogpool, the newest character of the Deadpool core, for the untitled Deadpool movie coming out next year.
Yep, I
It's an
saw
ugly
this one
dog.
today.
Hmm.
It's it's a. I can't wait to see the toys for this dog. I want to see the plush doll.
Is
The
this your
plush dolls.
build a figure?
Oh God, this better not be a build a figure, but it is amazing. I love this dog. It is an incredibly ugly, adorable dog. It's cool. Yeah, no, I man, I mean I've been getting a nice solid dose of Ryan Reynolds lately, because I watch Welcome to Wrexham,
Hmm.
and I just really enjoy everything that guy does. And it's what's fun is like knowing like how proficient he is as a businessman, and to the point where like the guy's a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's a straight up billionaire. So for when he makes a Deadpool movie, he's doing that out of love, because I promise you he doesn't need that money. You know what I mean? Like, and that just warms my heart every time he shares a tiny tidbit, because he knows exactly who he's targeting when he sends these posts out there. You know what I mean? And like, so I just it's just everything that he ever tweets about this movie is just pure joy for me. Like, this is the movie I'm excited for. So I'm very happy. If we're only gonna get one MCU movie next year, I want this one. This is the one I want. So I'm excited.
Last one, not last bit of news. Insomniac doing their victory lap after Spider-Man 2, the game launches, and that game is just continually to print money. Um, Spoilers: there will be another Spider-Man game coming out, but they basically confirm that Miles is the mainline Spider-Man in that world, at
Yeah,
least till the end of that game.
way to spoil it. That means my theory is true, and Peter's gonna die at the end of the current game that I'm playing.
That doesn't mean that, does it?
It probably means that.
Hmm.
It probably
I haven't beaten it, and I have not looked at spoilers for this game, so
good for you. I just assumed Peter was gonna die. So just because, let's be honest, Peter sucks in that game compared to Miles.
I don't like the new Peter face.
Oh, I hate the face. You know what pisses me off the most about the face? Like, is is as I started looking up more of the voice actors, like
Hmm.
they all look like their characters except for Peter. Every single actor in the game had their likeness scanned and used as for the character model, including Peter, until they patched him out to have this different face. Peter's the worst face in the whole game, dude. But everybody, like Miles, that's a spitting image of the actor, dude. It's pretty crazy. Like Black Cat, spitting image. Aunt May, spitting image. All of them. It's really nuts. Like how much
Hmm.
they all look like they're actors, and yet they just gave Peter this face that's like some weird hybridization of like their previous face and Tom Holland. But
Yeah.
I don't like it. It's gross. It's a gross face.
Well,
I don't like the faces that much in that game, but I do at least appreciate that everybody else looks like their actor.
well,
So
as we
kill Peter.
round
Kill
out
him.
the news, how do you like this face? What toy am I looking at right now?
You didn't even know what it was. That's awesome.
Leandra?
Lilandra.
Lilandra.
Lilandra Nirmani
Oh, okay.
of the Shi'ar Empire. She is the queen or empress or whatever you want to call it. Um, they're like bird people. Um,
Is it
they're
the X-Men?
yes, they are. They are a crucial part of the Dark Phoenix storyline, or the Phoenix storyline. Yeah. Um, if you're not familiar, yeah, eventually, um, the X-Men go into outer space, uh, because Professor X gets like a call from a telepathic call from, I think, this person or something like that, and they go out into space and they encounter this thing that this empire has been protecting forever called the Mcron crystal, and you learn that the Mcron is actually a prison for the Phoenix Force, and so the Professor X ends up falling in love with Lilandra, and they have like it's even in the cartoons. It's really cool. They even have like the whole like star-crossed lovers kind of experience going on and stuff. But yeah, the Shi'ar are a really important part of a really uh classic X-Men story, and Marvel Legends collectors have been it's been pretty barren on the Shi'ar until
Well,
this last year.
she
They've been
came
adding a lot.
in a Mystique fill figure. The
So
head.
a version of this head previously was released as a Walgreens exclusive accessory on the Mystique figure, and it's cool, but like I get tired of them throwing random heads at us and expecting us to like kit bash our own figures. So like the good thing about the old head is it's a nice color match for the old Silver Sable toy that came out back then. So a lot of people just make a Lilandra toy out of Silver Sable, but it's nice to see that they're actually making the figure. Yeah, and I want to see more. I think so far we've gotten like maybe 4 or 5 characters from that storyline. Like we've gotten 2 Starjammers, and then we've gotten like 1 or 2 of her Royal Guard. Um, so yeah, we got like 5
Wait, she
characters:
rolls with I can't.
Gladiator and like a
Well, who are
bunch
the
of other.
Starjammers? Are they?
The Starjammers are the people, the space pirates that the X-Men meet along this journey,
Okay,
and they're
that's Crosshair. Corsair.
Corsair is Cyclops' dad. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But they're like fugitives and stuff, so it's like it's kind of like, Han Solo, and then the Shi'ar are like
Is this
Lilandra's,
80s X-Men or 90s X-Men?
I want to say 80s.
Okay, because it sounds weird.
It's very 80s. Yeah, yeah. 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 But yeah, this is the one figure, like the team at Hasbro said they're going to take a break in November from revealing toys, and then they're like, "Oops, we forgot about this one." It'll come at some point next year, probably in another X-Men wave, and people will gobble it up because it's awesome. And people have a lot of nostalgia. So I say 80s, but like it was a big event in the cartoon too. Like
Hmm.
I think it was a 5-part episode, or 5-episode story,
Oh, wow.
which yeah, like they like every week we'd tune in and be like, to be continued, and we're like, what? This is forever. This is like You know, so it was like a big event in the cartoons too. So for a lot of 90s kids, that toy hits the sweet spot as well. Yeah.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, that was your news. Are you ready to dip into Loki?
Wait, before you do Loki, did you even watch Invincible?
No, no.
All right.
That premiered last Friday, right?
Last Friday, I think, and then the new episode was today. I've watched
Is
both
it
episodes.
good?
It's good. It's not as good as last season so far.
I'm unfamiliar with the story past it. Like, I mean, like I was somewhat familiar with the premise of like the first season, or like I guess the first run of books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with the books. Period. So like I enjoyed the twists of the first season. The second season is kind of just more of the same, but with Sterling K. Brown.
Okay, that's not bad.
I like Sterling K. Brown.
Is it weird that like I just like on just absorbing media, um, seeing like I don't say common people, but people who are not into comics talk about Invincible, and I'm not a big Invincible fan, but I've been very aware of its presence for a decade now, just given the space and Comic Con. You know what I mean? And it was
Well,
always like a niche booth at Comic Con.
I think the thing about it though is like, and I think what is a testament to Goldberg and Seth Rogen when they choose a property to translate into TV, they're really good about making them really accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably why people like Invincible, because even though comic fans can watch it and be like, wow, you ripped off of all of these things, you know what I mean? Like casual fans who don't really read a lot of comics, they just see a lot of like the best ideas all implemented together, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a cherry picking thing happening here and being repackaged as a brand new story, and it's a well told story. And so I think for anybody who's ever intimidated by the rich history of like Superman or Spider-Man or whatever, like that's what's cool about Invincible, right?
You
Is
just
it's not,
start.
yeah, you can get right in. And so
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
That's
I like
fair.
it. Yeah, just
Fair
like
enough.
the boys too. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the boys is easier to jump in and just, and you get a more current version of the story. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like whereas like even in 2001 Spider-Man, Sam Raimi he wasn't telling modern Spider-Man. He was trying to tell the Spider-Man that he grew up with in the 60s, you know what I mean? And like so it just feels a little dated in certain ways and stuff like that. So I and Invincible being dated is not horrible, because it's like, whoa, it's like 20 years old or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not that bad, you know. So but anyways, I just wanted to ask before we moved on. But we can do Loki now if you want. Let's go
Right.
for it.
Quote of the day: not that bad. Loki episode 5 and 6. The finale, the ending of this story as told by the creators.
Oh, the
Thoughts,
creators have
comments.
confirmed, if they've confirmed
They
that
said
it's
they
gonna
did not. They always planned it as a 2-season thing. They didn't shut the door on season 3, but they said all but that. Like it was always going to be two seasons.
Gotcha. I
Mm-hmm.
see. Yeah. So if I may, I would love as much as possible to just gloss over last week's episode.
Okay.
I
Well,
I did not like last week's episode. I really, by the end of last week's episode, I was like, Jesus Christ, when is this show going to matter? When is it going to do anything meaningful? Because not only did the fourth episode end with all of them dying, but the fifth episode's like, nah, psych, nobody died. And it's like, Oh my god, guys. I don't
It is a bit. It is a bit reductive.
yeah, like or redundant. What I said was reductive.
Okay.
What I said is reductive of the show. I mean, there's more nuance to it than what I said. But at the end of the day, I was watching something that was just beating a dead horse. Really, it was just completely. Oh look, now it's time looping, and I'm like, yeah, I got it. That was really obvious a long time ago.
I didn't. I mean, I took it more as he learned a new power. I mean, that's all it really is. He learns how to control his slipping, and the beats of
Sure.
that story just service that new skill. But so, okay, we won't talk about 5.
Okay,
But
so yeah. Well, I mean, unless you have anything you want to say about 5. If there's anything else you want to say about it.
nothing I wanted to say about 5. But I do view these as one. Like as this, I'm starting to view the season as one as opposed to episodes because it is I think a much better story that way. You know what I mean? Like you're not
Well,
if you, when you chop it up, it's not.
sure. Like every story is complete once you get to the end of it. Yes, I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying, I think what I'm trying to say, before we can move on to the
You're stuck on this
the
5.
no, before we can fully move on to the beauty of episode 6, is I think in order to serve episode 6, it did not need 5 episodes before it. I think
I will agree with that.
I
I
think
do
they
think it
could have
needs
condensed
episode
it.
5.
I think it needs elements from episode 5. I think it needs elements from episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I think all of those elements could have been condensed into
I mean, you
one
want to get
episode.
real, you probably could have cut out the first episode.
You could have cut out a lot. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. I'm not
But
gonna.
I
I'm
will
not.
I will 100% agree with you that this did not need to be 6 episodes.
Yeah.
But as we talk about 6, I think that's kind of cool that they did make it 6 episodes.
I
So,
think it's. I don't think it's cool that they made it 6 episodes. I do think that the sixth episode of the season rewarded you for the entire show. And I think not only did it save this whole damn season, I think it totally redeemed the season finale of the last season, and even made some of the earlier moments in the first season more impactful. Because
totally. Well, let's
yeah,
let's get what are the break down the beats for the finale for me. Like what's
so Loki is stuck in a cycle at the end of the last episode where he keeps ending up back at the moment where they're trying to send Victor Timely out to fix the loom, and
Mhm.
and and Loki can't figure out what to do, so he starts using his time slipping ability to spend a century learning physics.
It's like the
uh,
movie Palm Springs.
it is like the movie Palm Springs, or if you're old enough to know, it's like Groundhog Day.
He
It,
groundhogs his days, his
yeah,
situation to like the nth degree.
but I will say this because I am a sucker for a Groundhog Day story. I am, especially if it's done well. And I think this is a Groundhog Day story on crack because it the man spends centuries learning so much, not just about physics, but about uh, what he's able to do with his time powers, what the his purpose in this universe, and how He Who Remains and everything else fits into this universe. Like he becomes an all-knowing god basically by the end of this story, and I think that is a really cool arc that was incredibly glossed over. But it's still cool. It's still cool. Don't get me wrong. So yeah, he learns all this physics stuff, and then eventually, after a billion trial and errors, they come to the conclusion that they can't fix the loom the way they want to.
He needs to go back further.
Because what he learns is the yeah, the loom will always break, from their perception of breaking. And the only way to fix the problem is to go back to the moment where Sylvie started the branching timelines in the first place by killing He Who Remains, right? So then he goes there and spends a while trying to stop Sylvie, and she keeps saying, "The only way you'll stop me is if you kill me," or whatever, like that. And it's really comical, like how many different times you hear He Who Remains get gutted. Like he just gets shot over and over again, and every time he says, "I'll see you soon," and it's only after like so many repetitions of this that Loki kind of looks at the guy right before he dies and he says, "Why do you never try to stop her?" And when He Who Remains hears that, he presses pause and he's like, "Okay, I'm starting to think this isn't the first time we've had this conversation." And you get into a really cool conversation, and then it turns out that, like, even all of this was predetermined by He Who Remains, right? And so
Mhm.
he's really making the argument that
He
the
played
only
4D chess
yeah,
with the whole
exactly.
thing.
He's making the argument that the only way to fix this is to kill Sylvie, because the loom will always break, and quotes around break, because the loom's function is to kill all other timelines that are not the sacred
Sacred
timeline,
timeline. Mhm.
right? And so that's just by design. So no matter how much tampering they do, it's never gonna stop doing its intended design. So Loki, and like the consequence of breaking the loom is they will be they will release all the Kang variants upon the multiverse, and the crazy war will ensue and all universes will be destroyed again, right? It's either let that happen or kill Sylvie. And it's really beautiful because they almost make you believe that he's gonna do it, that he's gonna kill Sylvie.
And
and,
it's
and
it's you got to remember, it's not just killing Sylvie. It's like killing
yourself, right?
himself in a weird
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And so, he goes back and has a nice conversation with Mobius at the very first time they met, right? And it's the interrogation room. And it's basically Loki's just jumping through all the best moments of the entire show and changing the nature of the conversations, right? So instead of having that cute banter that they had back then in the first interrogation, Loki kind of interrupts him and he's like, "Look, I know what you're going to do. You're going to do this, this, and this, but like, I need to know, like, how do you be okay with deciding who gets to die and not, and Mobius has this really heartfelt story that he tells him about his own experience at one point in his life where he was sent to prune a variant that would be responsible for the death of like 5,000 people. And when he gets there, he can't do it because that variant is just an innocent 8-year-old kid. And he hesitates. And because of his hesitation, tons of timelines start branching, and people end up dying because of it. And it's Ravonna that steps in and murders this kid, or prunes, whatever's the sanitary word that you need to use to justify it, right? And so
Mhm.
that's what like he basically says, you gotta keep your eye on the prize sometimes. Like you can't lose focus of the big picture. Like sometimes it has to happen. And then he finally just goes and visits Sylvie one last time. And that's when, he tells her basically, "Hey, this is the score." And she's like, "Yeah, you gotta kill me, right?" And she's like,
Mhm.
"Well, you don't have my endorsement, like you don't have you don't have my blessing. I'm not gonna bless, but she understands that, she's lived through countless apocalypses, and the thing that she realizes is that sometimes you have to destroy things. And he realizes, like, in that moment, that it's okay to destroy something as long as you have something to put in place after it's destroyed. And that's when he gets his brilliant idea, and he goes and he becomes the time god, and he stops Victor from going out into the loom, and instead he does it, and he destroys the loom and grabs all the branches in this really beautiful, like, CG sequence, and takes them into, or like, he carries all the branches of the timelines through a rift and to the end of time,
Mhm.
sits on the throne, and is bound there forever, alone on the throne, protecting the multiverse, right?
Is he protecting the multiverse or the sacred timeline?
No, because the sacred timeline would have just been one branch.
Oh, okay.
He's
Yeah.
he's protecting he's protecting as many branches as he was able to grab,
Mm-hmm.
and the camera then pulls back really far and shifts, and you see that he's formed a new tree, the new tree of life, the Yggdrasil from the Norse mythology, and it's really cool. It's a beautiful thing that kind of has a lot of roots in his story in Norse mythology, and where Loki's punishment for his mischief in the comics, or I mean, sorry, in the comics, in the Norse tales, is he's chained in a cave, like under the roots of a cliff, um, to forever just sit there, bound. He's actually bound by, like, the metal intestines of his child. It's really gross. Like, the Norse stuff's way grosser. But so this is like the Marvelization of, the Norse
Well,
tale, which is he stays there until Ragnarok, until the end of times. So basically, he's potentially, this could be the end of his story as far as we're concerned, or it could be where they sit him on ice until he escapes and does more, like in the Norse
well, it
mythology.
was cool because he finally gets like a throne, right? That's a big part of Lokiism. He's always vying for that, but
But you know what? He's also not vying for it. He's always been afraid to be alone.
yes, and now he's eternally alone. But
Yeah,
I think the purpose of the last two episodes for me that really make this hit home is, in a way, it's Loki trying to get out of his situation by, I don't say by cheating, but
that's the whole season.
by
That's the whole
mischief and
season. Yeah.
trickery and technicality, and that's very Loki. That's a Loki ass thing to do.
I mean,
And
you could argue that's the whole show, though. That's been the whole show.
sure,
That's
but
been the trajectory since the beginning of the first season. Yeah.
they fast forward it in this episode, centuries later, or is a century later, and
At least a century later. At
but
least.
you see him come to terms with, like, oh man, I have to do this thing. Like, this is my glory. What is glorious purpose, right? Like,
Yeah. But that's what Mobius tells him, is sometimes it's your purpose is more burden than glory, you know, but you can't try and escape it just because it's a burden. And that's the lesson he learns from that, right? Is so I did think it was interesting that the title of the episode was Glorious Purpose, which was also the title of the first episode of the show. So it did kind of an Ouroboros thing, right, where it's eating its own tail. The end of the show is the beginning again of something.
there
Yeah,
was there was a little nugget in there when Morbius is talking about Ravonna and how she pruned that
Mobius.
Mobius Morbius
Yeah,
Mobius is talking about the kid with the Ravonna, or saving the kid from Ravonna, or vice versa. And he makes a comment that Ravonna, she specifically chose not to prune Loki. Do you think there's some kanginess, timey-wimey, more stuff going on with her?
Well, I mean, He Who Remains did tell Loki he's his favorite. Like
Mhm.
he's his favorite one. But of course, in that moment, he was like, when of the two of you, you're my favorite. When he was talking about Loki and Sylvie. But I kind of feel like, if He Who Remains plotted the course, the trajectory of everybody's lives in the sacred timeline, and it culminates in Loki and Sylvie arriving there to murder him, then I think he handpicked Loki for a reason, right? Like
Mhm.
he wanted Loki to be there at the end of time, and so I would not be surprised if, even if Ravonna doesn't know why she protected Loki, that it could be, subliminally planted in her somehow. Um, yeah. I also do like that Ravonna got it in the end, and you could see, like, she just got greeted at the end by Eliath.
I mean, you don't
Um,
know. There could
she
be a
could,
Kang on the other side of that.
well, that was definitely Eliath's,
Oh yeah, definitely Elias.
sound. Yes, but yes, I don't know for sure, but in my head, I would like to believe Eliath ate the crap out of her. Okay, because I like Eliath. I think it's a cool thing, and he's got a great snap card. So uh, it's like one of the most broken snap cards in the game right now. It really is. Have you
I
used
have
him?
not used the Elias card though.
It kills everything that is played on that location on one
Oh,
turn.
that's what he does.
He does. He just destroys it. It's vicious. But anyways, yeah, I loved the little epilogue that we got with all the characters.
Mhm.
So here's the thing. Like, I cannot sing the praises enough of this episode, because it really, like, here, if we rewind back to last year, and we were making our predictions, right? Like, I had really, like, probably in my mind, two things that I wanted to see happen at a minimum. I didn't need for Loki to be like the awesome god of time that becomes the 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 person, the being holding down the multiverse forever.
Mhm.
I didn't need that. So for me, that's like icing on the cake, because it was beautiful imagery, right? It was really
Yeah.
cool looking, and he got the cool horns and everything, like cool stuff. I didn't need that. What I needed, first and foremost, was Mobius going to a life with a jet ski. And we got that. There is a jet ski in the last shot
It's
with
not in
him.
the water.
It's in the frame. He owns a jet ski. He's just there he's seeing his life, that
Mm.
he, as a variant. For me, that's enough. That's enough that Mobius got to go and see what life is like. Because why protect it if you never get to see it? If you never get to enjoy it. So I appreciate that he decided to leave the TVA to go live that life. The implication being he will go out on the water on a jet ski at some point in life.
He's gonna
That's
murder his variant.
well, if you remember correctly, like, it was moments later that Loki shows up, takes the variant, and says, "I'll put you back right at this moment." So technically, he wouldn't necessarily even have to leave. He wouldn't have to murder him, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
But whatever, it's fine. It's fine. And then the second other thing, um, I think Sylvie was this really tragic character through the whole story, that, she's like a force of nature, right? Like,
Kinda. She's almost
she's
like a red herring though. Like,
she is a red herring, but I always felt really bad for her, because they want you to make her. They tried in the first season to kind of make her out to be this villain until you got to learn more about her, and her life sucked, right? Her life sucked so bad because she's a variant that's not supposed to exist. So what she's been doing for her whole life is hiding in apocalypses. So she's been living all the worst lives of ever in history. You know what I mean? And so I really appreciate that this tragic character made it out of this experience alive. Like that she gets to
Hmm.
go and have a normal life, potentially a peaceful life, or maybe she shows up in Avengers 5. Who knows? Like I don't know
Oh,
what she does.
they're all showing up at
I
Avengers
know,
5.
but you know what I mean. Like I think those were my two criteria for this show to satisfy me, and I think it went above and beyond that. Um, I'll stop griping about the length of the show and just be happy because
Well,
sometimes
it's a very complete meal. It
yeah,
doesn't really feed into more stuff. It will, and they all do, but it's not.
they all do. Yes,
That's
yeah,
but you know what I mean. It's not it in a little teaser for next week. It's very similar to how I felt the Marvels was up until third point, but like there's a beginning, middle, and end. And they closed the book, and they did that with this, and I can appreciate that a lot.
yeah. I liked the beginning of Loki, and I love the end. I'm not a fan in the middle. I'm not. But I will say this episode did make me more of a fan of that controversial season finale from last season because it added new context to "See You
Hmm.
Soon," right? To like that "See You Soon" was literal. He literally meant that. Like he meant that for Loki. That he'll see you many times over and over again. Um,
Did you like Jonathan Majors in this episode?
Yeah, I loved him in this episode. I think he seems like a really cool guy. I'd like to hang out with him. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think I
He
have
was really good. He is
I have never once said anything bad about any of the acting on the show called Loki. Like
that's
the the acting has
your
always been
presidential
amazing.
answer.
Well, I'm just saying, I've been saying all
No,
season
yeah,
long, the acting's great, set design's great, audio, and I do have a fun trivia or a meta trivia question for you. My wife and I were kind of deciding because like the I think that remix of the song at the end of this episode was just so good and just like and we were just talking about how much of a banger the theme song for Loki is. And then we started debating what slaps more, Loki's theme song or Only Murders in the Building?
I went to that building on my trip to New York.
Nice.
The specifically the theme song,
Yes,
Loki. I
it
hate the theme
does,
song
right?
for Only Murders.
Yeah. And you've never seen White Lotus, right?
No,
Okay, because
I
we were trying to
does
decide between White Lotus and Loki.
does Loki beat the Pickwick triplets? I don't know.
Oh my God. By the way, if we're done talking about Loki, which highly recommend the like just play video games while you're watching the back half of the second
It
season.
is one of the better pieces of Marvel content to come out this year.
It absolutely one of the best
But
pieces of Marvel content.
if you haven't watched, well, I think the show will go do really well if you watch the first season straight through the second season.
I think it'll do amazingly well if you binge both seasons together.
Hmm.
It's way better because like I think that problem is the time in between that we had to wait was so long that like I was like, okay, why do I care about this again? Remind me, like and it wasn't doing a good job of reminding me and stuff like that. But the reason I was trying to steer away from that is like I did want to just completely go on a tangent. We did finish Only Murders in a Building this week,
You like it?
and oh my god, the songs that Steve Martin and Martin Short got to sing, holy crap! Like that was amazing,
It almost felt
And
like
Meryl
that was
Streep
like
too.
in their writer. Like we have to do songs at some
Like
point.
I mean, they are two of the most talented like comedic actors of their time, and they just prove that they're two of the most talented comedic actors of this time too. You know what I mean? So like,
Well, it's
I
neat
was
that they're finding I don't say staying relevant, but their their comedy through the ages, right, has adapted really well. You know,
It
they
has,
know what they
yes,
know their strengths.
yeah,
They know their, I mean, their type of presence now. You know, they're not young,
yeah.
and it's fun,
Adaptation is the key to survival, and that's like, I
and that's
think
why there's
if
going to be a season 4.
and I think and if we had to tie it back to Loki, I think that's why I liked Sylvie so much, is because she is the product of infinite adaptations, right? Like that's like she like she like survived a billion holocausts, right? Like and then still somehow
She came
found,
out all right.
and she came out all right, but she still wanted to just go have a job at McDonald's, right? Like
I
that's
will say this: I am bummed for season 2. I know why. There a lot of the same characters came in because it's a cyclical story, but there are not a lot of aliens in the TVA. There was one in the first episode. There was alien. They did a whole alien episode. Man, they don't care about alien.
I mean, I think they were just going to. They were focusing more on the story itself. But
Are
but
I'll
in
to
fairness, there were two aliens in every episode of Loki, Sylvie and Loki.
wow. Are is there this is like way off tangent now. In Marvel comics, is there some type of species racism where if you look humanoid, you're cool? Because that's what it really is. If you look like a human, you're getting saved. If you don't,
I'm gonna say, yeah, of course, that exists in everything, right? Like
the
that's.
Kree
I
look
mean,
human.
obviously the scrolls get the shit end of the stick for looking the way they do, which is why they go around shape shifting, right? So yeah, I think that's a you're not making a wild leap here to assume that people who look a certain way are more looked upon favorably. So, uh, but we can talk more about that when we talk about the Marvels next week, because there's a lot of aliens in that one, right? A
A
lot
lot
of
of aliens that one.
human looking aliens
A
too.
lot of human looking aliens.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm done. I'm done with this Loki talk. I think way
I'm
to
happy
go,
that
guys.
you spun around, and it makes me happy to see you happy.
I was pretty bitter for 5 weeks, man. And so I was
And they
very
showed you the
happy.
light.
I was very happy that we just skipped talking about it last week, because I think I was at the all-time apex of being pissed off at a Marvel property. Like by the end of last week, I was like, "Oh my god, why?" And then this week, yeah, Lindsay was saying, like, when I started watching it this morning, she was like, I don't envy you for watching the show. Like it's a dreadful experience like every time. And I'm like, I know, right? Like it's rough. And then we were watching. She only got to watch 15 minutes, and she had to go to work. And when she got back home, I was like, you got to watch it. Like I was like, you got to watch it. And she watched it, and yeah, man, the person who was telling me how much of a dreadful experience it was like, that was really good. And so, fuck, man, just do that,
They
but
got you. You're back on the
do
train, baby.
do that, but consistently, instead of dicking us around. Like, you know what? It kind of reminds me of WandaVision, where it's like, what are we doing? What is this? You know?
I didn't put two and two together, but with the Matt Shackman, um, he he wrote WandaVision, or wrote and directed some of WandaVision, and he's doing the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Um, he did some press today, or not today, this week, talking about the Mephisto thing and how it was never in that show, but he was fascinated how people started connecting a Mephisto.
I cannot. I'm more angry to know that he didn't even see that, like that he didn't even consider that, because Mephisto is a very big part of that world. And so, okay, whatever. Now you're just upsetting me more.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
yeah. I at least appreciate that Loki decided to, like, you know what, we're gonna go back to that Norse mythology a little bit, and we're gonna put it in a place where people can't even be mad at it. Like what my wife was like, but where's the snake dripping poison into his eyes forever? And I was like, okay,
Is
maybe
that a thing?
yeah, maybe we don't need to do that. Okay, maybe we could just let him have the win, right? Let Loki have the win. So yeah, like I said, in the Norse mythology, it's a punishment, not so much an act of sacrifice that he's making, right? So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it's the Marvel version, right, where he gets to be the master of his own fate. And I think that's a really cool thing for Loki to make the sacrifice he does, to be alone for the
What was
sake
that
of
line Morbius
allowing.
has? Like your only purpose is to make others great, or something like that.
I don't
He has
remember.
a line along those contexts. In the first season, when he's showing people or showing Loki his like,
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
or
Yes.
yeah, something like that. But I mean, it's true. That's what it ended up being.
It is true, right? But I think the cool part about it is from now on, love it or hate it, every good Marvel story or every bad Marvel story that we ever watch from now on, we can just say thanks, Loki, like because it's all his fault now from here on out. Hopefully, there's more wins than fails, but I know. No, I'm not going to spoil that. We'll talk about the Marvels next week.
All right. Well,
Cool.
with that, true believers, it's been a fun show. Enough said.